Hello and welcome back to Aubrey Books and Coffee. Please grab your favorite beverage of choice and join me. I hope everybody had a fantastic holiday. Whatever you celebrated, I hope it was wonderful. I hope if gifts were exchanged, you got everything you wanted and then some. We certainly did around here. I am very happy to report it's almost getting professional up in here. I've got the beautiful lighting thanks to a very awesome subscriber. You know who you are, Lula. And I also got a new microphone that's hopefully going to give us some better sound. I'm going to see if I can pick it up without making too much noise, I hope. How cool is that? It changes colors. And that was thanks to my mom. So shout out, Mom. Thank you. I'm almost professional around here. So anyway, it was a fabulous month. So many good things read. A couple not so good things. We'll be diving into that. But overall, December was a wonderful month for us and a huge blessing. And I hope it was the same for you all. And I hope everyone's ready for the new year and a new game tomorrow. I am. Friendly reminder, this is the last day that you can claim your prize in that 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. So make sure you email me by the end of the day today, or you forfeit that prize. And it was some really good stuff in those book boxes. So make sure you check that video out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll make sure to link it below. And of course, before we get going, Rumbletoes says hello to everyone. And he too hopes you had a good holiday season. So we will start off with some stats if he will let me do that. First, I said that I did 33 books. Keep in mind, there's some DNFs on this list, but 33 is the total number. I read about 11,792 pages, which breaks down to about 380 pages a day, which is really, really good, especially since a lot of the books I pick up are chunkers. So that sounds about on point for me. Fantasy, of course, was the biggest genre that I read. No surprise there. Also, no surprise, my favorite format is audiobook. That's how I get so many read. And then as far as like a new author versus author I've read before, it was actually a pretty even split. I was really kind of impressed with that. And I ended up with 3 5 stars, 7 4 stars, which was nice, 16 3 stars, 3 2 stars, and like I said, 4 DNFs, which gave me an average rating of 3.3. Certainly not the highest rating I've ever had, but also not the worst. So again, not super upset about it. And so now let's dive into the books themselves. First, I ended up finishing Alice in Borderland Volume 6. You know I love this series. I gave it 5 stars. Of course I did. It's getting even deeper into the weeds. It's getting even sadder. We're starting to finally see kind of behind the scenes and why the things are happening that are happening to our main character. And again, it's heart-wrenching, but in the best possible way. Then I finished That's Not My Name. This I gave 4 stars. It was a surprise for me. It was one of the GoodReads nominees. I'm glad I picked it up for that vlog because I ended up liking it a whole lot more than I ever thought I would have, and I never would have picked it up otherwise. So thank you all for enjoying the vlog and for giving it some love, because that means I'll do it again next year as you've requested, and I really had a good time with it too. Then I finished Leather and Lark and gave it 4 stars, of course. This is the second book in that series. And again, I so enjoyed the characters. It's a bit more of a slow burn, so keep that in mind. Don't expect the same kind of pacing you got in the first one in Butcher and Blackbird, but it was still very enjoyable and you got to see some familiar characters. Then I finished Charm. I gave this 4 stars. This is book number 5 in that Crave series. It was really good. I'm glad that I got to see kind of what happened in the missing time. I don't want to say too much and give away previous books, but there was some time, not a lot, like accounted for before for our main character. I'm glad to see what happened during that time. I hope that made some sense. If you've read it before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was kind of cool to get to see that and see the relationship between the two that were involved in that missing time block. Then I finished Dawnbreaker. This was a NetGalley, and I appreciate that NetGalley, and thank you so much for it. And I ended up giving it 3 stars. Sorry, I got distracted. Cats are trying to climb curtains. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. This is apparently book 2 in the series. I am not picking up book 1 though. But I didn't actually feel too lost. The author did a really good job of filling in the gaps, even though I hadn't read the first one. But it still was only kind of meh for me. It wasn't grabbing me like I wanted it to. So that's why I'm not going to continue it or even go back to the first one. Another NetGalley I did was I Think I Was Murdered. And this one I ended up giving a 3 stars as well. It was very slow. The pacing was very, very slow, which isn't horrible as long as the end payout is wonderful. But for me, the ending was just kind of meh. I kind of saw it coming. It didn't blow me away. Didn't wrap it up super excitingly for me. So for me, it was a 3-star, middle of the road kind of read. Then I read Dinner for Vampires. This was my book of the month choice for the month, and I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really good. As far as the type of cult that she was in, it's scary how similar it is to just being part of a more radical Christian group. But I really enjoyed getting to hear things in her, viewpoint. I really enjoyed this actress in One Tree Hill. So I loved getting to kind of see behind the scenes when she was working with the other actors and actresses on that show. And just, in general, other things that she's been in as well. And I think she just has a beautiful voice and seems like a very beautiful person. Then I finished The Veiled Kingdom. This I gave 2 stars. I hated to do it. And I heard the second one is not even as good as the first one, so I'm not going to waste my time on this one. This is going to be this author's going to be at a Polycon, and so I was really, really hoping that it was going to be good so I could pick up a beautiful edition, because apparently last year at a Polycon, this author had several beautiful editions of all of the books. I'm going to save my money on this one because it just wasn't for me. Basically, it felt like there wasn't any real plot. I went into more depth on this during my Polycon vlog. Feel free to go check it out. But basically, it felt like a bully romance that was very light on romance and more on the bullying. And kind of like Zodiac Academy, that's just not my shtick. I don't like that at all. I want there to be redeeming qualities. I want there to be some actual romance, not spice, but romance. And there just wasn't that. So not for me. It was a miss for me. Then I read Not in Love. I was surprised. I gave this 2 stars. I was, of course, so excited and anticipating reading this. I love Ali Hazelwood. I don't know what happened with this one, but for me, it was just a meh kind of plot, and the romance just really wasn't there. It was very shallow. I just didn't care about the characters at all, and I just didn't feel it. So for me, it just was unfortunately a miss. Then I finished Spark Like Stars. This was the book club pick for the local library book club. I enjoy being with those ladies. I enjoy getting to talk about these books. This I gave 3 stars. I appreciated that it was set in Afghanistan because I have served over in Afghanistan in 2003. And so I enjoyed being able to hear how green, lush, and beautiful it used to be in parts of Kabul prior to the wars that were going on. So back in the 1960s. And I loved getting to see that and this viewpoint from this girl, and I liked seeing her come of age and then her life as an adult. Unfortunately for me, there were so many parts that just hit the brakes on the pacing, and it got so deep in the weeds on details that I didn't think were necessary for the plot. Sometimes it felt like towards the end, they wanted to just have a Hallmark moment, so it felt very forced and you really had to suspend disbelief. And it really pulled me out again and again. And so for me, it was unfortunately just a very mid-level 3-star. Then I finished Someone in the Attic. I enjoyed doing this as a buddy read, and thank goodness I did. I gave it a 3 stars. It honestly would have been a 2-star probably, except I did it as a buddy read, and I always enjoy the books more when I can go back and forth with somebody. So anytime you guys want to do a buddy read, you let me know. I'm there for it. I absolutely love doing that. Basically, you had to suspend disbelief all the time in this book. Like nothing at all is what would probably happen in real life. Go into it knowing that. Go into it knowing there's a lot of times where it's extremely slow plot progression and just a whole lot of extra detail. And if you're okay with that, you'll have a good time. If you're not, I would recommend skipping this one. Then I read Brother Song. Of course, I gave it 5 stars. That finishes the series. I adore this series so much. TJ Klune, you know how to rip my heart out of my body, but you also know how to sew it back together, put little kisses on it, and put it back in. And I so appreciate that about you, because this was just a fantastic ending to a incredible ride of an entirely fantastic series. So Oh my gosh, I cannot recommend it enough. And thank you again, Sam from Yarn Reader, for recommending this series. It has been just, I've not wanted to finish it. I've been dragging my feet for months, not wanting it to end. You know how that is when you find a series you adore. But it is over. Thankfully, I can reread them anytime. Then I finished How to End a Love Story. Now, this one I gave a 4 stars. It was a GoodReads win, and I had never read anything from this author before, but I'm 100% going to now because it was amazing. I absolutely loved it, adored it. There's loss, there's grief, there's healing. Everything feels very believable. You feel everything in here like deeply. The only reason I didn't give a 5-star is because of the heavier moments. I don't see me ever rereading this, so it's not going to live on my shelf. But that's literally the only reason. So this is another one, kind of like some of Sabatahir's books where I'm like, I'm only giving it a 4.99999 because I would never reread it. But it is really, really good. If you like romances at all, if you can handle grief, highly recommend you pick this one up. It won for a reason and I approve. Then I finished Fury Born. Oh, and there's more details in that GoodReads vlog if you want to hear more on that book. Then I finished Fury Born, 3 stars. This was also in my Polycon vlog. Basically had an incredible world building, especially for a YA story. However, it was just the characters themselves. I never really got attached to them or really felt entrenched in their world. And their names were so similar. I kept getting confused. Which one was, 1,000 years ago and which one's now? And it was just very kind of confusing for me. And they felt like pretty much the same character. And so I hated that. I hated that I couldn't distinguish them. And there wasn't one soft, one powerful, one with powers, one not. So because of that, the lines got blurred and they just seemed like the same character to me. And I just hated that. Then I finished Mistletoe Mystery. This was our book club pick. It was a novella. Gave it 4 stars. Absolutely love Nita Prose. I love Molly the Maid. We knew exactly what was going to happen in this book. Little hints that were dropped in the beginning, of course, transpired at the end. And you see it coming a mile away, but it's still very sweet, very precious, and gives all those vibes I love so much from this character. Then I finished Deadstream. This I gave 3 stars. This was a GoodReads win for me as well as a NetGalley. So thank you to both groups. This one, unfortunately, it's a YA story with a really cool premise. And I love that there was some representation of agoraphobia in here. You hardly ever get that unless it's like a thriller of some kind like this one is. And so I really appreciated that. And especially it being a teenager's point of view, because usually it's an adult that's an agoraphobic. So I really, really loved that. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. You know me. Professional lighting and microphone, still not professional in the mouth. I'll work on it. So anyway, I absolutely thought it was good. The thing that took me out of the story, though, again, it drew out that little tiny plot way too much. It should have been a lot shorter, and then it would have wrapped up quicker and I would have liked it a lot more. But also there were entire chapters that were typed out like it was in a forum, or like if you're in Discord and you have those bubbles, or it was very online format for chapters and chapters and chat. And I don't like that. It's one thing if a character's texting somebody really quick and we have the majority of the chapter and then there's this little snippet of it. That's cool. But to go for chapters, plural, with that, it really took me out of the story. And I just got kind of annoyed reading everything in that format. So it bumped it down to a 3-star. Then I finished The Matchmaker. I gave this one 3 stars as well. It was also a NetGalley. I really got my percentage up, you guys. Wait till you hear what it was. This one was kind of cute. It has to do with our main character who lives here in the U.S., but likes to do the matchmaking for a lot of Indian couples. And so she gets hired by people over in India as well as local. And she's really, really good at her job, but surprisingly isn't married herself. And so she has this best friend that kind of pretends to be a fiance and stand in for her so that her credibility isn't called into question. Well, now she's got a mysterious person trying to wreck her business. And that's what the whole story is about, is that plus this friend, of course. It was cute. It didn't blow me away. And the whole reveal of the sabotaging of her business was kind of disappointing for me. So that's why it got the 3-star. Then another NetGalley that I got was A Fate Forged in Fire. I was really excited about this one. We've got a blacksmith that's got secret powers that she has to keep on the down low. She also secretly has a wish that she wants to be able to bond with a dragon, but only royals are supposed to bond with dragons. So again, all the things that I would absolutely love. just prepare yourself because the pacing in this one is all over the place. You have it going super fast and then it slows down so much that I'm just like skimming. I'm not going to lie. There were times I was skimming because it was just boring. It was so boring. Details I really didn't feel like I needed. So just kind of keep that in mind and yeah, make sure you're in a good headspace to have one that's got pacing all over the place. You can put it down when it's slow and then come back to another time when maybe you're feeling more up for it. I wanted to finish it by December and get that percentage up, which I did to 95% and NetGalley now. Thank you very much. So yeah, I just got to say, make sure you're in the right headspace for it. I think this has the potential to become an incredible series for everybody involved. I just may not be on the train for this one. Then I finished Cherish. This was the final book and conclusion in the Crave series. Oh, it wrapped up so well. I applaud. You did so good, Tracy Wolf. Seriously. It was really good, very satisfying. Everything you hoped that would be wrapped up got wrapped up. I don't remember there being any holes left. I'm pretty sure everything got wrapped up. So I was very impressed by that because a series this long with that many floating pieces and details, a lot can get missed. I didn't think there was anything missed. So I just really enjoyed it and I do recommend this series to everybody. Then I finished The Women. This I gave 5 stars. I was tempted to not do so because it's so heavy. In that GoodReads vlog, I actually am bawling and I ugly cry. Like as you can see in that vlog, I totally ugly cry. But it was just so real and so raw. And so I gave you exactly what was happening in that moment when I wrapped it up. And again, it's one that I think I'm going to have a really hard time rereading because it hits so hard. But oh my gosh, it was so good. It would have done a complete injustice to everybody that's ever served, especially during the Vietnam War time. It would have just been an injustice for this book to go anything lower than a 5-star. Now, keep in mind, it's very polarizing, it seems like, on GoodReads. People either love it or they hate it. So just keep that in mind. It may not be for you, but for me, it was absolutely perfect. I'm going to sneeze. Sorry about that. Continuing. I know, right, Rumple? Then I finished Somewhere Beyond the Sea. I gave that 3 stars. It was the sequel to House on the Cerulean Sea. It was great getting to see our characters again. We even got a really sweet moment at the end. I'm not going to ruin it, but I bet you already know what's probably going to happen. We got to see more of Arthur and how he came to be who he is and where he is today. We also got to see a new child that they're thinking of adopting with new abilities and special, we'll say, circumstances. And so that was really sweet. I really enjoy getting to see everybody again. The reason it got a 3-star for me is because there was such slow pacing. At times it was boring. And I hate to say that because, again, I love TJ Klune, but yeah, it just, for some reason, it didn't have that same quick pace and wrapping you in a blanket feeling that the first one did. And so for me, it gets that 3-star. Then I finished The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. This was the book club pick for Liv's book club. It was a 3 stars for me. It was a mystery. It was extremely cheesy. Of course, you had to suspend disbelief. Again, that's like the name of the game for most of the books this month. What I disliked about this is that the romance that there was supposed to be there mostly happened off page. And I'm not talking about the spice. I can take that or leave it. I'm talking about the actual romance. So like this guy's head over heels for this girl from literally page 1. And it's like, why? And then it's because stuff that happened off the page. And so for me, that just kind of ruins any kind of romantic connection. I want to see it build. I want to see it become what it is. I don't want to know that it just happened before you ever introduced me to these characters. So for me, that kind of lowered it down to the 3-star. But otherwise, it's a fun, quick read, and I do recommend it. Then I finished The Monstrous Kind. I gave this 3 stars. Strange fog that kind of covers the land, and anybody who doesn't have royal lineage, unfortunately, when they get hit by this fog, mutate into monsters that now surround this fog. The characters just never felt deep for me. They were very shallow for me. I wasn't rooting for them. I didn't care about them. Yeah, I don't know how else to word that. I wasn't pulled in. And so for most of it, I just, again, felt bored. So I don't know. I don't know if it's like these YA books are just not my cup of tea that are being chosen for book boxes, or if I should stop doing YA and go to adult now, but there's so many YAs I do still love. So I don't know. I'm torn. Let me know below your thoughts on that, please. Then I finished A Promise of Peridot, and this one, of course, is the sequel to A Dawn of Onyx. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was really good, actually. It didn't fall into the curse of the second book for me, which is wonderful. I love that we got to see a showing of power. I don't want to give anything away, but they don't have, like godlike powers, which is nice. And it really set it up well for the next one, I think. And so you continue the relationship, of course, of the main 2 characters. And again, I don't want to give away too much in case you haven't read the first one, but I was very satisfied with how this one ended up rolling into this one and then rolling from this one into the third. We'll go with that. So then I finished At the End of the River Styx. This I gave 3 stars. This was a romance between 2 boys and had to do with one who had made a promise to the farrier in the River Styx that for 500 years he would serve the ferryman and he would ferry souls, and in exchange his mother gets to live after a brutal car accident. Except the one problem is this one tricky soul keeps appearing and then disappearing and then appearing, and right before he can send him across the river Styx and he even gets him into the system, disappears again. And it's kind of the friendship that turns into a relationship between the 2 of them. And it's really sweet, but again, there's so much of the time that it starts to get very repetitive of the reappearing, disappearing stuff. And it got to where I was like, oh, for the love of God, chain him down or find a way to make sure he doesn't come back, because it just started annoying me, to be honest. So hopefully that's not the case for you if you decide to pick this one up. And if you did, I hope you enjoyed it. Then I finished Alien Clay. This I gave 3 stars. This was my first Adrian, I'm going to say it wrong, Sikorsky. I apologize. But basically, it's a sci-fi, they're on an alien planet, and not only are we being introduced to a new alien entity, but at the same time, there's an uprising of the prisoners. And so it's kind of a mix of stories that are happening in that moment. Some of it feels very slow and building of suspense, very similar to me of Sphere from Michael Crichton. But then there's other moments that feel almost like Silo. If you'll remember me reading that book, that's apocalyptic times where everybody lives in silos, where it's got the whole, how the higher ups have organized everybody to be here and the workers and all of this structure. And it just, I don't know, it felt weird. I never quite understood exactly where I was supposed to be in this book. It was enjoyable, at times slow, but I'm not mad at it. So I settled on a 3-star because I didn't love it. I didn't want to keep it, but I also didn't hate it. So 3-star. Then I finished I finished The Darkness Before Them. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. This I gave a 2 stars. I got it in NetGalley. It's a Matthew Ward, so I expected really good things. Unfortunately, it did not deliver. It starts off with a bang, and the characters are amazing, and I loved them. There's a situation of where it's almost like a heist kind of situation, and the 2 girls are trying to, steal something together. They're girlfriends, and one has a really cool tattoo ability, and I don't want to say too much and give away, but it was really, really kind of sweet. And then they're trying to recruit others. And again, trying to almost like a Six of Crows kind of vibe to it. And then it gets really boring, like really boring. I know that's horrible, but for it being like 700 odd pages, like this book just needed to be about 400 pages less. And then I think the pacing would have been perfect for me and I would have really had a good time with these characters. But because it was so thick and there were so many details and the plot progression was so slow, it just was not a win for me. Then I finished The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. I gave this 3 stars. This is the 3rd book in the Nyaxia series. I love that we got Misha's story because I loved Mish in Serpent and the Wings of Night, but I'm afraid she kind of fell flat for me. In this, she felt very one-dimensional. There wasn't a lot of character growth on her part. I liked seeing the past and how she came to be, but I really didn't feel the romance for me. It just wasn't working, and it felt like the plot was like this much of the story. And so that was just very, very disappointing for me. It felt like it had the potential to be so much. Now, this is going to be a duology, so maybe Carissa Broadbent has saved the majority of what we're going to love for the next one. I am going to read it. I'm totally going to read it. I just didn't love it, unfortunately. Then I finished Born of Blood and Ash. This I gave 3 stars. This is book 4 and final of the Flesh and Fire prequel series. Hallelujah. Not my favorite characters. You do not want to read this before you do the From Blood and Ash series, though, because it will ruin some plot points. But I enjoyed seeing what happened with the characters before we got to know them in From Blood and Ash. That was enjoyable. But I feel like just the first 3 would have been fine. Like, I would have been totally fine with it being a trilogy, not going on and on and on like this. Like, even the last book seemed like it didn't have all the juicy stuff I would have wanted. So you could have actually combined book 3 and 4, in my opinion. Maybe even added some of it into book 2 and just had a really good trilogy. It just felt like it was going one too many, and I just didn't enjoy it as much as I really wanted to, especially for Jennifer Armentrout, whom I adore. So, in case you were calculating as we went, that leaves 4 books I have not mentioned, and here is why. The first one is Intermezzo. This was for my GoodReads vlog. I did put that in there. I DNF'd it because it is so boring. That's all I got to say. It's boring. It is just completely boring. We're following these 2 brothers, and they're the main characters, and I couldn't tell you their names, and I couldn't care less about either of them. I know one played chess, and that's why we got the cover we did in the book, but no, it was boring. I could not. I absolutely could not. I DNF'd. I want to say probably at 20%. I could not do it. The next one was The Afterlife of Holly Chase. This was the book club pick for Kim's book club, sadly. This was a woman who, it was the Christmas Carol, basically, and she helps to be ghosts of the Christmas future or past or whatever they need her to be. That's how she clocks in and out each day. It was really boring. It was just, for me, it was weird. It was out there. It was boring. I couldn't really connect to the character, and I was not having a good time, so I ended up having to DNF it. Then The Wicked and the Divine. This comic series is beloved by several people I know. However, not for me. I can handle a lot as long as there's a reason for it. But if you've got parents, you may want to fast forward a few seconds if you have children nearby, or go on mute me for a few seconds. Okay, I'll give you a thumbs up when it's safe. But when you have one of the characters going to a concert and the person on the concert stage that is singing, because of their singing, is literally having everybody around you having orgasms, yeah, I'm out. This is weird. And that's within the first 6 pages of this comic. That's weird. I'm sorry, but that's weird. All right, we're safe. So yes, it was a DNF for me. I'm sure it's a great ride for everybody. Not for me. And so of course, that being the DNF, that was the third one. Next, You Like It Darker. And this was also in that GoodReads vlog. And I think you all know by now why it was a blah and a DNF for me. And so at 52%, I DNF'd it. I was done. Those short stories were some of the worst short stories I had ever read before. I could not believe that it won in the GoodReads category for horror. The only thing I could think of is because there's some true diehard Stephen King fans. They don't care if he writes down his grocery list on a napkin. They're going to think it's the greatest thing ever. And that's the only thing I can think of, because I'm telling you, the first 50% of that book is... Tell me redeeming things about it. If you read it and you loved it, let me know below in the first 50% what was so amazing about it, about those short stories. I want to know, because obviously I missed the point of those short stories if they actually had some nuggets in there that I missed. So... anyway, that's the 33 that I ended up doing for the month of December. Let me know below what your favorite book was for December. Let me know below if you read any of these and what your star rating was, what you liked. We all have different opinions. At the end of the day, not every book's for everybody, but I believe there is a person for every book. And so even the ones that didn't work for me, they always, there's somebody that says below, that's my favorite book, which is beautiful. I love that. I love that we all can have different feelings about different books. We can have completely different tastes and still enjoy talking about these books together. So thank you all for being here. Please like, subscribe, send your friends, and I will see you guys next year.